You're listening to Men of Abundance, episode 219 with Billy Keels. Have you ever thought about what life would be like without your 9 to 5? I bet you have.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What's up, all of you amazing, abundant leaders out there? I am Wally Carmichael, your founder and host of the Men of Abundance podcast, the Pay It Forward community, and man, oh man, we have really gained some momentum over the last month, but really the last couple weeks. And quite frankly, I don't know where it's coming from because I don't pay for advertising for Men of Abundance. It's all word of mouth. So one of you out there, or a couple of you maybe, have a pretty darn big mouth, and I thank you for it. If the rest of you want to get in on the action and want to be a part of the massive growth of Men of Abundance, of this podcast, of these amazing conversations, then make sure you share Men of Abundance in your circles by either sharing the website, menofabundance.com, or sharing directly from your podcast player, whichever one it is that you use. And make sure you go to iTunes or go to menofabundance.com. Underneath the podcast player, you will see where it says leave a review. You can click on that and leave a review in iTunes. Leave a rating, 4, 5, 3-star rating, whatever it is. I want you to be honest because I want your honest feedback so we can only make the show better. But make sure you leave a rating and review on iTunes or on the podcast player that you use, that you listen through. On top of letting me know that you're getting something out of this show, what that does is that shows iTunes that you're interested, that other people are interested in Men of Abundance, and it pushes Men of Abundance up in the search engines so that when people are searching for anything abundance or any of the categories of the conversations that we're having here on Men of Abundance, then people will find it, people will be able to listen, and they too will be able to get access to this amazing content and these amazing conversations and possibly change somebody's life. And that truly is the magnitude of what we're doing here at Men of Abundance. Now guys, when you're daydreaming and you ask yourself, what if? Do you ask yourself questions with answers you have control of? I'm not talking about questions like, what if I won the lottery? Sure, you have control in the sense that you get to go buy a ticket, but that's the extent of the control of you winning the lottery. And I'm not talking about questions like, what if I got a huge raise or a bonus from my boss this week? Sure, you have the control to do your job and do it well enough to get a bonus or a raise, but you don't have control on whether or not if you're going to get that bonus or raise. Only your boss has that control, or the corporation that you work for. I'm talking about questions like, what if I took off on a 30 or 90-day sabbatical? Where would I go? What would I do for income? What would I learn about myself and the world if I was to travel a little bit more? That's exactly the conversation I have with Billy Keel today. Billy asked himself questions like that, and then he took action. This is his story of living a life of abundance in his own right. Have you ever gone on a trip and wished that you could just stay and not return? My whole time in Hawaii, I met so many people that said, yeah, I came here on my honeymoon and never left. Well, Billy did just that when he left for his sabbatical to Europe 17 years ago. One day he asked himself the following question: what if I don't have to do this 9 to 5 job thing any longer? What could life have been then? How would it be to spend more time with my wife and kids? Certainly there was supposed to be more. More time with family and friends, more time for vacation and travel for fun, more time to create assets that would bring more returns than a paycheck. As an employee, Billy was working each and every day to build someone else's dream. It was time to make a change. Now Billy is leveraging his strengths, his education, his ability to speak 5 languages, his understanding of real estate across markets, and his leadership and team building skills to help others find great investment properties in the U.S. Billy is an author, speaker, teacher, and long-distance investor. As the founder of Keep On Cash Flow, Billy Keels invests in properties in the United States while living in Barcelona, Spain. Now listen guys, there's no overnight success. Billy continues to work toward his vision and goals. Topmost of his list building a bridge between investors and buyers in Europe with sellers in the U.S. Men of Abundance, it is my honor to introduce you to Billy Keels. Billy, welcome to Men of Abundance, man. How you doing?
Well, Wally, thanks so much. I'm really looking forward to the conversation, man.
It's been a long time coming. You've been on the calendar for a little bit, and then we were supposed to talk yesterday. And since I don't know if I very seldom get sick, but since I've been here in Florida, I've gotten sick a couple times. I don't know if it's the change of climate or what it is, but I've been really congested lately. But I greatly appreciate your flexibility and jumping back on today so we can get you, get this episode posted.
Yeah, likewise. And well, first of all, I guess that's part of the adaptation process. So you'll go through this just fine. It's part of what happens.
Exactly.
And then also too, I appreciate your patience with me as well, because I've been doing planes, trains, and automobiles once again. So
yeah, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too, because I dig as much as you're traveling and what you got going on, man. So where you at in the world today?
So I am in Barcelona, Spain. This is where I now call home. This guy from Columbus, Ohio, now calls Barcelona, Spain, home. And I was actually just in Mallorca today, so just a little island off the coast of Spain.
That is so freaking cool, man. That is really cool. We're going to get more into what got you out there to Spain and what you got going on. But before we do, I like to start out with an attitude of gratitude, man. What do you have to be grateful for today?
Well, you know what? Today I woke up healthy and happy, and I had a chance to talk to my wife and my sons, who are not with me right now. They're away. They both, all three of them, told me they love me, and I get a chance to speak with you. So those are some of the things that I'm very, very grateful for today. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. Since I've been here in Florida, we were talking pre-show, and some of you guys already know that I finally transitioned from Hawaii to Florida. And the way my lifestyle is now, I very seldom wake up to an alarm. I just wake up when I feel like waking up. And I know you're still doing a 9 to 5 as I am, only mine's like more of a 1 to 9. But what kind of, what's your day look like as you're getting up and greeting the family and getting your body moving a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the things I like to do before I get started, I really start with myself. So one of the things I used to do is get up and do meditation. So I would do meditation probably somewhere between 20, 30 minutes in the morning, and then get some exercise 3 to 4 days a week. And about a month, just over a month ago, I read a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And so today actually was day 30 of putting the book into practice. So that's what I'm now going through, the savers in the beginning of the day, to stay focused on making sure that my mind and body are right so that I can help others. After that, usually start into the 9 to 5. I say 9 to 5, but I actually start probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Usually on a plane, traveling somewhere. If not, I'm on the phone most of the day. I work a very demanding enterprise software sales role. And then I usually finish that later in the evening, have dinner with the kids. Once the kids go to bed, spend a couple minutes with the wife as well. And then usually get back to building my dream and our dream. Usually till about 11 o'clock, 11:30, and then I'll read a book for a little bit and crash out, and then kind of rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I like how you said that, crash out, because I take multiple naps throughout the day. Because I just get, I have a lot of other medical issues and whatnot, but I don't want to get into that. But the bottom line is, when I feel tired, I just go lay down. I love doing that, man. Naps are awesome. Yeah, so that's cool, man. I dig that. It's real important. That's a very good book, by the way. And we're going to talk more about other books later on, but Miracle Morning is a great book. And then there's another one. There's many others that follow on to that. But Cameron Herold co-wrote a book with Hal Elrod called Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And Cameron is a past guest of mine on Men of Abundance as well. But that is another great book. Hal writes most of the book, the front end of it, and then it goes into the entrepreneur stuff. So those of you that are entrepreneurs out there, or strive to be, you want to see what it takes to really be an entrepreneur and all it takes. It's a very good book to start with, because a lot of people think, well, being an entrepreneur, I just get to do what I want to do when I want to do it. But chances are you'll end up working a lot more than you ever will at a job. And for those of us who are doing both, it's just piled on top of each other. So, Billy, how would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as somebody who has been loved by many people for the majority of my life, which has allowed me to always, I guess, be curious, more curious than most sometimes. I guess also not someone who loves a lot, not necessarily millions of people in that way, but I really hold and cherish friendships a lot. When it comes to wanting to get things done and having goals set, I like to set goals, and I like to be able to create the environment for the people that are around me, specifically teams, so that they feel motivated to go out and accomplish whatever task is at hand, whether that's in the corporate world or now in building my own dream. And somebody who just, I guess, is used to learning from failure and working to improve as much as possible every single day. So I guess that's how I would describe myself, and also someone who loves my family and loves being able to be a father. So that's something that's really important to me as well.
Yeah, that's a true description of a true abundant leader right there, man. That's really cool that you strive do what you can to love as many people as you can, and it has a lot to do with being accepting love into your life as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So as you know, on the show, you've listened to a couple episodes. We like to get into this kick in the gut moment, and this is the reason why we do this is because the reason why I always ask this question, quite frankly, is because we all have these kick in the gut moments, and it's what we do with them that really sometimes define who we are and kind of resets the trajectory of our life. So if you would, share that kick in the gut moment with us and really make us feel that.
I guess the first real kick in the gut moment happened when I was probably around 10, something like that. And when my parents started having marital issues, because basically the whole schema was your parents are together, and that's kind of the thing. That was the surroundings that was around me at the time. And then when my parents eventually divorced, I think that was probably the biggest kick in the gut moment, because being the oldest child, I didn't really know what my role was anymore, because dad was not in the house. We were with mom. I have a younger brother and younger sister, and I guess when I think about it, that was probably the first big emotional kind of kick in the gut, if you will. And also, too, you don't really know how to react or I didn't know how to react at the time, although I was receiving a lot of love from both my mom and my dad. You have a brother and sister that are looking to you for comfort or kind of for some direction. And I was too young to realize really what was happening, other than we were now not like all the rest of the kids. Little did we know many years later that it would start to become, unfortunately, more the norm. But that, I think, was the first kind of kick in the gut moment. And I guess what I realized now is, even though we got kicked in the gut, because we were getting, or I was receiving, love from our parents, and they were focused on making sure that I was okay and that my brother and sister were okay, started to realize that, I guess this is just another one of the situations in life where we're a bit different than everybody else, and started to realize that that's okay, because I had the right direction and the right amount of love around me. So I guess that was the first kick in the gut moment in life, and there have been many, many, many others since then. But that's the first emotional kick in the gut that I can remember.
Yeah, I can feel that personally because I've been there. How do you think that made you grow as a man?
So as a man, I guess, number one, it put me in a position where I did. Am I the head of household? Am I not? And so there was that kind of insecurity, but then pushed into the position, number one. Number two, and when I think about it, man, my dad never went anywhere. It's just the relationship between my mom and dad didn't work. So I still was able to talk to dad and asking him questions. And even some of the uncertainties that I had, and it's just, no, look, I'm still your dad, and I'm still the head and responsible for you. The thing is just me and mom are no longer together. And, I look back on it now and I think, wow, my dad's newly remarried and he's super happy. And I love my stepmom and mom is, mom right now is by herself and she's super happy. So, it was a tough situation. And at the same time, once again, because I was getting the love and had access to both of my parents, it was just, I guess it was going through the motions. Where it was a bit stranger was at school, because at school at that time, I mean, we're still talking, this is a middle school and high school, so late 80s or early 90s. Most of my friends at the time, their parents were all still married. So I was kind of like the guy who stood out. So I didn't really have anybody to talk to about it at school. That ended up becoming a big benefit when I was in college and after college, because then many of my friends from high school, their parents started divorcing and all that other kind of stuff. So it actually came around. But at the time it was a bit challenged, but because there was always the love, I just kind of kept going and moving forward through it. So yeah. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it does. And thanks for sharing that, because, sometimes that type of getting that personal isn't really easy to share. So I do greatly appreciate you sharing that with us, because I feel it's important that we as men have these conversations like this and really kind of work through a lot of this stuff. I'm just convinced that it is. There's nobody that can convince me otherwise. I used to be the guy that was the opposite of that, but I know better now. So you've got just so much going on now. I mean, you're in Spain. How did you end up in Spain from the United States, born and raised, and now you end up out in Spain? You decide, hey, look, what if I want to travel and just not return, not go back to my old, the old humdrum of the life of doing what everybody else is doing? Where did that all come from, and how did you end up there?
Yeah, sure, man. So if you give me like 2 minutes, I'm going to tell you the full story. The short answer is love. That's how I got here.
I love it.
That's how I got to Barcelona. But being a guy from Columbus, Ohio, I was, like I said, we had a chance I was the first in the family to go to college. I went to college in the Southwest of the state of Ohio at a university called Miami University. Had an awesome job. After I finished college, I worked for a company based out of St. Louis, Missouri. And Wally, I mean, in the 5 years after college, after I graduated from college, I had a chance to work and travel throughout some 58 different countries. So it just completely blew my mind. And I was working with Fortune 500 CEOs and their leadership teams primarily, or top winners and things like that. So I had a chance to see an amazing amount of the world that I never even imagined, right? And that just completely blew my mind. And so I didn't see myself going back to, like, after that experience, 5 years, 58 countries, doing a quote unquote normal 9-to-5 job. So I decided to take a 1-year sabbatical, and I wanted to learn a foreign language. So I wanted to learn French. I was accepted at university in France at a university called the Sorbonne. And I wanted to learn, I had 3 goals for myself. I wanted to learn the French language, more about the culture. I wanted to learn how to salsa dance, and I wanted to learn more about wine. And so I always kind of joke. I say, well, I went to France. I learned more about wine, and that wine drinking helped my salsa dancing. So that was kind of one thing led to the next, which was kind of cool. But then I was only supposed to stay there for a year, and I didn't actually plan on, well, I didn't want to leave after 9 months, because I was really starting to learn the language, and my salsa was getting better, and I was learning more about the wine. And so I was fortunate enough to some of the relationships that I'd built before. I had a chance to start an opportunity, a professional opportunity. So I stayed in Europe. I moved from Paris down to the south of France. And when I was in the south of France, started working in IT. They then sent me, after a year and a half or 2 years, to Italy. So I had a chance to work in Italy and build a sales team there, then went back to France. And right before I went to Italy, I met a little Spanish girl. And she kind of stole my heart, and we stayed in touch. And when I came back from Italy, we were still in touch. And then we spent time going back and forth between Barcelona and Montpellier. And one thing led to the next. I moved to Barcelona. We ended up getting married. We have 2 beautiful boys who are full of energy. And so that's the kind of the Reader's Digest version of how a guy from Columbus, Ohio ends up making it here to Barcelona, Spain. So.
That is beautiful.
The 1-year sabbaticals, man, they can go a little bit crazy. So be careful.
Oh,
Anybody
I bet.
Sabbatical.
So you speak 4 languages. You already, I know, obviously English, French. What else do you speak?
So I speak English, Spanish, French, Italian, and I also speak a language that they speak in the region where I live in Spain, which is known as Catalan. So I actually speak five, and during the day, I actually speak Spanish and Catalan for my job. So if I say anything that sounds a little bit strange during the interview, it's just because I'm usually speaking Spanish or Catalan during the day.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Yeah, my wife is from Panama, so we're both
Oh,
English and Spanish speakers.
oh, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And my Spanish is not as. Here's the thing: living in Hawaii for 10 years, I had to more understand the biggest population in Hawaii, believe it or not, is Filipino. So Tagalog is the language that many speak there, and Japanese.
Got it. Wow.
I mean, obviously English is the number one language, but next is Tagalog and then Japanese. So coming to Florida, to Tampa, Florida, I very quickly need to brush up on my Spanish because damn near everybody here either speaks Spanish and English or just speaks Spanish.
Yeah. I remember the first time my wife went back to the States with me. We went to New York, and she was all nervous about, they might have to speak English and this and that. When we got to New York, it was like and after the first day, she was like, you know what? I think my English is much better than I thought. I'm like, well, you don't have to speak English.
It certainly is. Absolutely. That's for sure, especially New York as well. Yeah, most definitely. That's cool.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right. I'm saying keep on cash flow because
Yep,
I'm reading
exactly.
it like it is. Where does that, I'm intrigued by names. Where does that name come from?
So keep on cash flow. And so, I mean, you'll appreciate this as well, Wally, with having a bilingual family. So it comes from the combination of my last name, Keels, and my wife's last name, which is Pond. So, and we put those together. So keep on, Keepon, is the first three letters of each of our last names. And it represents our children, right? Because they are our offspring, if you will. And at the same time, it's a play on words, which is really interesting because in our household, when you speak multiple languages, the words are really important. So one of the things we think about is when we keep on moving towards our goals, or we keep on failing and then learning from our failures, or we keep on doing whatever. And the big focus of what I do is creating cash flow. So it's keep on cash flow. That's the genesis of the name.
I got that last part. That I figured out. I thought, well, maybe it is just that keep on cash flow, and then with Billy, yeah, just wonderful. I dig it, man. It's awesome. So where did all that come about? What are we doing there? Who are you talking to, and what's the message?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is that the keep on, it really started from, I mean, I never planned on having a company or doing any of this stuff. I mean, after having gone through, get the right education, get the right jobs, climb the ladder, do all those kinds of things, I guess the part that I was missing was, everybody said, put all your money in the 401k and in mutual funds and all that stuff. So one of the things when you're in the four different asset classes, primarily I was invested only in one of them, which was paper assets. And so after 2000 and then 2008, when the stock market took a hit, I really felt like I didn't have any control. So I was looking for new things. I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That changed my life. It took a couple years for me to actually go from finishing the book to actually putting things in motion. But once I did that, I wanted to actually apply all the things that I learned in the book, and I wanted to do that here in Spain. And so I wanted to go out and buy an apartment, and then that was going to cost too much. And then I wanted to buy parking spaces. And then someone said, well, why don't you buy back in the U.S.? You're American. And I thought, well, I never really thought of that. It's, 5,000-6,000 miles away. Why would I ever do that? But one of the things that happened is, as I had friends that were here in Spain initially, they were asking me questions about my business as I was giving them all the details and what the struggles and the challenges. And a couple of friends said, hey, number one, I was getting the same questions over and over and over and over. But there were three friends in about 4 or 5 months, as my memory recalls, that asked me about being able to invest with me. And I thought, well, no, man, I don't want to do that, because I'd always been taught, don't ever mix friends and money. And then another friend asked the same question, and I said no. And the third friend asked the same question. And eventually I thought, well, you know what? If these three friends see something that's there, then why would they're seeing something that I don't. So then I got more informed, and one thing led to the next. And I ended up creating a company which kind of really helps investors create cash flow for themselves. But one of the other things, because I was answering the same questions over and over and over, one of my mentors recommended, he was like, well, why don't you just start answering these questions because you're forgetting the same ones and just answer them. And so then I built a website and have started using more and more social media, which has been a great way to connect with new people as well. So maybe once again, it's a little bit long-winded story, kind of how Keep On Cash Flow came about, but it was really through some personal pain, through not having control in the stock market, and then a lot of pleasure on the other side where I had friends that saw an opportunity that I wasn't really seeing, and also being able to go out and coach and mentor and share and educate the marketplace in a way that most people would not think of, because they don't think that you can live in one continent and invest in real estate in another. And I can pretty much tell you it can be done because I'm doing it.
Yeah, well, yeah, good point. I mean, and everything you just mentioned is a perfect formula. I don't know about perfect. I don't know if it's ever perfect, but it's a great formula anyway for a business model. I mean, you had a passion, you saw a need, there was, proof in the market, and the fact of the matter is, you already had the knowledge and you're just sharing it. And I just think it's amazing that you're able to monetize such a thing and then live where you want to live. I mean, obviously living in Spain, doing business in the United States. And yes, I know people that have real estate all over the world. And I mean, I know of people, but I personally know people who have real estate all over the world. And there are certain places you have to have citizenship to own land and stuff like that, but many places you don't. Yeah. And it's very similar in a lot of ways to doing business in North America, United States, and Canada. So that's really cool. And then, of course, you have knowledge in all of that many people want. And also, I'm looking at your website here. I'm noticing that you have one of your latest podcasts, or one of the podcasts with Tyler Sheff. I have him scheduled for August 8th to have a conversation with him, with the cash flow guys. So I'm pretty excited about that. What was your relationship with Tyler?
Very cool. So you know what, Tyler and I actually, we started in real estate. He started a little bit before me, and he has been a great friend, and also I consider him to be a mentor of mine as well. We really got started together in the real estate space, in the multifamily space, and he is just a really, really stand-up guy. Somebody that, and it's funny, man. That's cool. It's cool. You got in touch with Tyler as well. He's awesome. When you speak to him on August 8th, tell him I said hello, and hopefully, Tyler, if you're listening to this, what's up, big guy?
Yeah. He, like you, your folks reached out to me, and then his folks reached out to me. So I must be doing something right, man. If all these amazing men like you and Tyler are reaching out to me and wanting to be on my show, man, I think I'm just super humbled every time I get an invitation like that or get a request. It's so awesome.
Yeah, you know what, Wally? One of the biggest things is I think it's a great place where you create a forum for men to be able to come together and to share. And I guess not just men, but also for women to be able to gain insight into some of the things that we're thinking about, where some men, we may not feel comfortable initially talking about it, but here we can go and we can listen and we can see that we're not alone, that there are people that are also thinking about health and spirituality and wealth. And so the fact that you are also taking that responsibility, because at the end of the day, it's a big responsibility, and you're shining that light. It's just, it's attracting people to you. So I think it's a testament to you to be able to have followers and create this safe space for us. So
yeah, I greatly appreciate your comments on that, and that's absolutely correct. And one of the things that I found very interesting is that my close friends, and the same with other people, men don't want to have these conversations with their coworkers and some of their close friends, quite frankly. But when I get on the phone with them and somebody contacts me, and first off, I take it very, very personally and very seriously if I'm going to consider coaching with somebody, either on a personal level and living a life of abundance, and or in their business, because business is very personal as well. Yep. And I take that invitation very seriously. But what I found is perfect strangers will open up to me much more than close friends will. And it's the same. They won't open up to their close friends, but they'll open up to me quicker. And they'll tell me things that I'm just like totally honored that they would share that type of information with me. So it is a huge honor, and I greatly appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well deserved. Well deserved.
Awesome. So we are at the point, well, actually, what I want to do now is, kind of get a few good news stories based on what it is that you're doing, who you've been able to help, and because I'm just a sucker for good news stories. You have any that you'd be able to share?
Well, I mean, one thing that I'm doing aside from being able to get ready to take my kids back to the States, and that will make them happy because they get to see grandma and grandpa on the U.S. side of things, and nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters. That's kind of a good news story that I'm excited about. I've been working with one person in particular. I really want to help a guy who is interested in doing long distance investing. So he lives in Europe and he wants to purchase properties back in the States. And I've been working with him one-on-one, and it's just so great to see somebody who is so motivated actually sees that there is someone else that's doing what they want to do, and knowing that I can be an inspiration for him, and also because it's also just confirming that I'm able to help and contribute to someone else's growth, right? Because when you think about that whole growth and contribution pendulum, that I'm moving from the growth where I'm just taking to be able to give back, and so that is something that I'm really, really excited about as well. So I guess those kind of would be the two things that are on the horizon right now.
Yeah, that's really exciting on both parts. Very exciting. I just recently posted on my most recent episode, which today, at the time of this conversation, is July 17th. Mm-hmm. So an episode just posted yesterday. And in the pre-show, what I talked about was don't let what you don't know hold you back, because that was part of the conversation that I had with that guest. And this is the same thing, guys. You know, this gentleman that Billy's talking about doesn't know how to do what he wants to do. So he sought out somebody who is doing what he wants to do, and he's learning from him. And you can do the same thing. There's so many people out there that are willing to mentor you, coach you, many times for a price, but it's a price well spent. It's definitely an investment if it's something that you truly want to learn how to do, whether it's learning another language, learn an instrument, or learn how to invest in real estate in another country.
And I would say, aside from, and just to build on that, one of the things that I've learned through speaking 5 languages, I think a lot of times people just think, well, wow, you speak 5 languages. But that's kind of where I am today. What we forget, and I guess I wasn't really aware of it as so much, but to be able to get to this level of fluency in 5 different languages when I started at 27 and only spoke English is I've failed millions of times, not just once or twice, millions of times, to be able to go from learning the vocabulary, then the grammar, then the structure, then the verb tenses, and then to actually do it and speak in front of other people. And so even when you are working with someone else who's been there before, you've got to take what they tell you and put it into action. And don't worry about making mistakes. That's part of the process. Like, you have to make mistakes. And the important part is to learn from them and not repeat them. Because even I've worked with mentors and coaches, but at the end of the day, I had to do the work.
Yeah, exactly. And on the whole, you're bringing me back, man. When I learned Spanish, it's funny because I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was predominantly Hispanic, and I really didn't care to learn Spanish then. Even though I took Spanish in high school, didn't learn a darn thing. Took French in college. Took French in college. Still didn't learn anything. But then when I first joined the military, I was in South America, Bolivia, Panama, and then I ended up in Bolivia. And I used to spend a lot of time talking to the kids because as a medic, I sat a lot. I sat and waited for somebody to get hurt, basically. I worked with engineers while they're working on roads and building buildings and all kinds of stuff. And I'm talking to the kids, so I learned my Spanish, but through immersion, through talking to the kids, right? But then later on in my career, one of the units I was with, a special ops unit in Panama, they sent us to Puerto Rico to the Defense Language Institute to learn Spanish. And we learned Spanish in the classroom. And that's when I started learning how to conjugate verbs and all this other stuff. And then I realized I was totally jacking up the language. And then I was intimidated by the whole process, right? So it's another point I want to make, and you can please chime in on this because this is one thing that drives me crazy. I've been to 23 countries on 5 continents myself. And every time I see Americans in a different country and they want to speak English and they get pissed off because the person that they're talking to doesn't speak English, and they literally get pissed off and they're like, you should understand me and I should, blah, 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 and I want this. I'm like, what an arrogant ass. And then I'll walk up to the vendor or whoever it is they're talking to, and I'll make an attempt to speak the language wherever it's at. And they'll go, don't worry about it, I speak English.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what I learned from that is if you at least try, you're going to get across, and they respect you for it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess the same kind of thing. After having now lived outside of the U.S. for, I guess I'm going on since 2001, so going on 17 years in three different living in three different countries between France, Italy, and Spain. When I guess from the American perspective, I didn't get it in the beginning, but I guess because we are so isolated back home normally, so if you don't have a passport or you haven't traveled, the perception is everybody in the world speaks and knows English. And so I kind of understand how that happens. And I guess what I want to always do is very similar to what you just talked about, Wally, is actually demonstrate and show other people, local people, wherever you happen to be in the world, as well as our fellow Americans, by leading by example and just showing that, hey, listen, even if I am in Myanmar, Burma, I would try to speak local language if I could, or at least, something, so that you try to make that connection. And then afterwards, either people do speak whatever your language is, English in this case, or at least you get the smile and you get an interaction, which is super cool. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's about how do you connect or communicate with other people. Sometimes you just have to do it hand to hand or writing on a piece of paper. Eventually, we make the connection, though.
Yeah, ultimately, while we're not communicating verbally, we're communicating, and we get our point across just the same.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely love it. That's why I love traveling so much, the excitement of it. So, brother, we're at the point where we're going to pay it forward. You ready to do that?
I am definitely ready to do that.
Excellent. All of you amazing small business owners out there, I want to talk to you for just a second. Are you still having fun in your business? Is it still as fun as you thought it would be 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago when you first got started? Chances are, if it's not, it's because you're not making the revenue that you thought you would. You're putting more hours in than you ever imagined that you ever would put into a job. And you're just really just kind of keeping it afloat. And that's not a great way to live. I want to help you with that. I want you to have as much fun as I'm having on a daily basis. I don't know that you'll ever be able to work out of your home like I do because of the nature of your business, but I want you to be able to spend more time with family and improve your health instead of degrade your health through spending more time at work, more time in the business. I want you working on your business instead of in your business. Now, if this is your first exposure to me, chances are you don't know me from anybody. And I totally get it that you would question, who is this Wally guy? What can he really do for me? So here's what I'm going to do for you, for all of you. I'm going to offer you 30 days free into 2 of my programs, my DIY program and my group mastermind program. I'm not going to lay it all out right here because I want to get back to the conversation, but go to menofabundance.com and click on the AP Mastery tab at the top of the page. I've put a short video there introducing myself, and I'll put some more information there that you can evaluate and take a look at what it is that I can do for your business. And look, I am willing to work with you for 30 days because I am very confident of the results that I can give you in your business in the first 30 days of you working with me. In fact, on our first 45-minute conversation, I'm going to show you where you have $10,000 to $50,000 hidden in your business. That's child's play for me. I'm not only going to show you where that's at, I'm going to give you strategies on how to uncover that money that's hidden in your business. Now, you can either go to the show notes of this episode or go to menofabundance.com and click on the AP Mastery tab at the top of the page. Now, let's get back to the conversation. So share with Men of Abundance 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can take today.
I'm going to give 3 questions. And the goal to answer these questions for everybody is to help you get clarity on what it is that you want to be able to do. Because one of the things that I've found, Wally, is when I have clarity, it provides a specific power. And it's the power to, number 1, decide on what action I want to take, and number 2, to actually act upon it. And so I want you to answer these 3 questions because this is an exercise one of my mentors gave me to help me gain the clarity. And the first is, if you were able to have everything you wanted to be, or everything that you wanted to be known for, what would you want to be if you knew you couldn't fail? That's the first question. The second question is, if you knew everything that you touched would work, what would you do? And lastly is, what would you have if you knew you couldn't fail? So by answering those three questions, which is the be, do, have exercise, it should help you to gain clarity on what it is that is really important to you in your life. And by having that clarity, it will give you power to decide on what you want to do, and most importantly, to start to take action towards that goal.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, action is my number one word of all things. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. So what daily habits make the biggest impact in your life? You already mentioned a couple as far as, the miracle morning and whatnot, but either you can get a little bit deeper into that or bring up some other habits that are a huge impact in your life.
Yeah, number one is, so I think one of the things that I've started to learn is really about focusing on me. So if we use what the process that I'm following now, it is the Savers with the Miracle Morning. I think that's one thing. The other thing is I've learned that being uncomfortable, it's okay. And I guess that part of that is when you've worked and traveled now throughout some 86 different countries, just kind of being different is okay. You learn from that. And one of the things that I'm continue to work on is when there is something that is in my gut, there's a question that I need to have answered, I ask the question. It doesn't matter how stupid other people think the question is or whatever, but it gets it out there because it allows me to continue to be transparent. If I think something doesn't feel right, and then I'll ask the question. If I don't really understand something, I ask the question, so that I can, I guess it comes back to being able to be clear and make sure that there's no confusion between anybody. And that happens in relationships, with kids, wife, or even with negotiations on new multifamily properties that we're a part of. So I guess those would be the things that kind of come to the top of my head right now.
Excellent. What are you reading or listening to, or what would you recommend that our abundant leaders read or listen to, and why?
I just finished a book by a guy named Ryan Holiday. It was called The Ego is the Enemy, or Ego is the Enemy. And I just started another book, which I think it's The Obstacle is the Way. And those, I guess the Ego is the Enemy. Ego is the Enemy has been in a moment of reflection after having read it. And I realized that, sometimes we do things that are more based on ego or fear than anything else. So that's at the top of my mind right now. I know we talked about the Miracle Morning, but there's one book actually, and it's more of a kind of a finance history book. It's the biggest book I've ever read in my life. It's a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. So Jekyll Island's an island just off the coast of Georgia. It has nothing to do with Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And that book completely changed it just gave me a new perspective on the way that money works. And anyone who has time to read about history and the Fed and money and kind of what happens, it's a great insight. It's written by a guy named G. Edward Griffin.
Very interesting. Yeah, I had heard of Ryan Holiday, but I hadn't, and it seems I've heard of that book as well, but all excellent books. I'm definitely got to add a couple of those to my list for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Those are really good. Really good.
Either way, I'll certainly have them linked up in the show notes. So guys, if you want to, instead of writing all that down, I know some of you are driving or doing your workout or whatever it is that you're doing. Don't worry about writing that down. I'll have all that in the show notes, so you can just go there and check it out. So what do you feel holds most people back from living a life of true abundance, Billy?
I think it's fear of criticism or fear of not being right. I guess, and one of the things right now that I'm reflecting on a lot is ego, and what Ryan Holiday talked about, and how that wanting to be perceived a certain way or wanting to live up to someone else's standards a lot of times will hold us back. And I even think about certain things myself. So that's something that's right at the top of my mind right now, because I just finished that book. I think it has a lot to do with that response.
It's very interesting because ego, it's important to be confident, right? Mm-hmm. But when ego starts getting in the way of your decision-making process, or not even your decision-making process, what I get out of that is ego gets more in the way of your ability to learn more, your ability to listen
Right.
to others, even, especially in your own field, because you feel, hell, I've been doing this for, I've heard this so many times. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I see it a lot, being in marketing, I see it a lot in people's ads. We've been in business for 15 years. That don't mean crap. It means absolutely nothing to me, because you might have been doing business wrong for the last 15 years, as far as I know. But what are your thoughts on that? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so I think part of it is exactly what you said. I mean, when you think you know everything, that's probably when you're in the biggest amount of danger. There's something to be said for being humble and being curious and and genuinely asking questions because you want to learn. And when you can learn, and then it goes back to what you just said, you learn something new and you put it into action. And then that's the way you actually figure out, do you know, or the theory that you just thought, that you just heard, can you put it into practice? And if you can put it into practice, can you then repeat that? If it becomes repeatable, eventually it will become a skill that you have. But if you already think you know everything, then guess what? You're probably not going to put something new into practice. And then that means that either you won't be able to really develop that skill, or you're pretty soon going to be surpassed by the person who's been working harder, putting things into action, or putting whatever knowledge that they've attained and putting that into action. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of where I would expand on that.
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely. So what does living a life of abundance mean to you?
For me, it's being able to, I consider myself one of the most fortunate, blessed people on earth, because I am able to, number one, I'm still healthy. I realized in life that I used to think that was something that was just given to us. And then when you see around you that that's not something that's there, you're being able to wake up healthy in the morning. That's something that's amazing. I'm able to live in a place where I want to live, which is in Europe. I'm able to maintain wonderful relationships with the people that I care and love the most. And it's reciprocal. And as a person and as a man, I continue to grow and learn new things about me every single day. And I'm able to provide for my family, not just financially, but also emotionally, and feeling comfortable with my emotions and learning more about me as a person and those around me. I guess are just some of the things that helps me to feel abundant. And also, too, I guess I'm in this point in my life where I want to contribute to others. And that really, really, really feels good, because I know that I used to take so much because I've always been curious. So all those combination of things I would make me that's what abundance is to me. Yeah. That's probably scratching the surface.
No, exactly. And I dig it, because you really hit on it there at the end, because being able to live the lifestyle that you want to live, that is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful to be able to do that. But as soon as you take that knowledge that got you there, or even got you close as far as you can figure it out, and start sharing with other people, then that's where real significance and real abundance starts coming into your life. And you're right, it feels amazing. That's where the true blessings of life truly come out, is being able to share what you've learned with others. I absolutely love that. So, man, we are going to have keeponcashflow.com listed in the show notes. Before I let you go, what did we not talk about in our conversation today that you want to ensure that our abundant leaders get out of our conversation?
It's because I'm working in a corporate role during the day, and I'm building the dream at night. And sometimes it seems, you can get really frustrated very easily. But this is a journey that has just started, but it's only been 5 years. So I would say, whether you're running on the treadmill, or you're listening in your cubicle, or you're walking down the street, if you feel it in your gut and or in your heart, then I would say you probably need to go ahead and try whatever it is that you have on your heart, or in your stomach, or wherever that feeling is. Because if you don't, you maybe get to a point in life where you regret not having tried something. I think it's better to try something and have a learning experience, or some people would call that failure. I like to think of it as a learning experience, versus getting to the end of life and figuring out, well, you know what, I wish I would have done that, or I could have done that, or I should have done that. I think that that should scare you more than failure or a learning opportunity.
Very, very good answer. And I'll tell you, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I want to add to that just a little bit, guys. Notice, and this is what I'm getting from you, Billy, is notice Billy did not wait. He's got his corporate life during the day, his corporate job. He's building, and as he said, he's building his dream at night. But he's not waiting. He is living his life. He has been to 50 some odd countries. He did that early on, but he's still living where he wants to live. He's not waiting to live where he wants to live while he's building his dream, because that can take, like you said, it's taken 5 years at this point, and he's obviously not done. And guys like us will never be done. We're always going to be building. As I always say, we're always going to be improving our foxhole. We're always going to be improving ourselves, our way of life, if anything, improving a legacy for our children. But don't wait until tomorrow or whatever day, until the kids are out of school, until you got to have a certain income level, or until you have that perfect job or that business growing where you want it to. If you keep waiting, then you're just going to take it to your grave, and that's truly a shame. I'd rather you not do that. Billy?
Yeah, I completely agree with you all. I mean, now, if you don't mind, I'll even share this. I mean, one of the things before I started sharing in this format, I mean, because I'm in a corporate job, I used to be really afraid of sharing outside or helping to share news beyond that, because I was afraid of what the criticism or the backlash could be. And I realized that, you know what, this is something that I genuinely love. This is something that that will allow to be, it will allow us to live the lifestyle even more so that we want to be able to travel freely between the U.S. and Spain. And so you have to break through whatever fear that's holding you back. And I'm so glad that, even with my wife being extremely supportive, said, Billy, go out. I mean, what's the worst that would happen if you go out and share? And I started thinking, well, what if the opposite was true? Like, how many great things could happen? And now I start realizing that by sharing, whether it's through the website or being able to speak to you, Wally, there are a number of people that I've now spoken to from around the globe that are like, Billy, man, you know what? I was having similar kind of thoughts. I'm glad that you did this. And they want to find out, like, what are some of the different feelings I was going through, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say I know where you're coming from, because I've been there and I'm even there now, but you still got to just break through it. Just push, lean into it, as a lot of people like to say, and you'll figure out what's on the other side. So.
Absolutely, 100%, man. I greatly appreciate your insights. I love your lifestyle. I love what you got going on, man. I truly appreciate you. And I just want to tell you, man, just keep living a life of abundance and always continue paying it forward, man.
Yeah, I definitely will do that. And I want to thank you as well, Wally, for giving me the opportunity to share with the community, and for the people that are out there, if they ever wanted to, I know you said you put it in the show notes, they can check us out and what's going on over at keeponcashflow.com, especially for those people that just kind of want to find out a little bit more about what it's like being a long distance investor. There's also, if anybody wants, we wrote a book on Amazon, but I'd like to give it to you guys for free, and that way also people can find out more about what we're doing. Anyone would just need to go to growyourmoneythesmartway.com. And if there's anybody who wants to chat, feel free to just hit me up. You can do that at bit.ly/speakwithbilly. So I really appreciate it, Wally. It's great having a conversation with you, man.
Oh, man, it's been awesome. I'll have all that linked up in the show notes. Greatly appreciate that, because I was looking at on your website here, Grow Your Money the Smart Way, the download. That is freaking awesome, man. So I'll definitely have them check that out as well. Brother, go out and have an amazing rest of the day and or evening. I don't even know what time it is there. What's that?
It's well into night here.
Okay, I figured it was. All right, man. Take care, brother.
Thanks, Wally. Take care.
Bye. All right, guys, your action step for this week is for you to figure out what kind of sabbatical are you going to take? Plan it out. Whether you think you can do it or not, whether you think it'll ever come to fruition, plan it out. Make it very detailed. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Who's going to be with you? Put a date to it. Put it on the calendar. If it's a year out, 2 years out, 6 months out, whatever it is, put it on the calendar and plan it out and put it in front of you. I'm telling you, something happens when you do this. Don't worry about the how. Just plan it out and make it very vivid in your mind and keep it in front of you at all times. Now, if you are able to just right now stop what you're doing and take a sabbatical over the next couple of weeks, I encourage you to plan it out. These things like this shouldn't be done on a whim. Those are fun, but you should plan this out and go on a sabbatical. Go somewhere you've never considered going before, or maybe that dream vacation. But do something that is completely out of the norm for you and see what it does for you. When you get back, you're going to be so invigorated if you do come back, unlike with Billy where he stayed there 17 years and many others I know as well. But if you do come back, you're going to be so reinvigorated, you're going to be energized, and you're going to love life all over again. Now, go out and live your life of abundance and make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.